let's start with this. Money movement is actually a very complicated business. Most of us know very little about how money moves from my bank account to someone's bank account, or when a merchant gets paid from a buyer, how the money actually moves. Thunes is actually in the midst of all of this, particularly here in Asia. So just for the audience, can you explain what Thunes does and like how you are powering the global economy?
Yes, and thanks Yamki, and thanks to the Circle team for having us all here today. Super excited to talk about Thunes with you and the partnership we're developing with Circle. So thank you again. So I often say, if you're a user or a sender of payments, if you're dealing with the complexities around it, you're probably having a problem. And so Thunes, we live in that complexity. And so what do we do? Thunes is the smart superhighway connecting payments around the world. And you could probably put Circle's logo on that, so what does it mean for us? And I often talk about it when it comes to our customers. So we power the likes of Remitly, Payoneer, Revolut to send money cross-border. So while you won't see our logo on their homepages, you'll know that Thunes is in the background facilitating payments cross-border on behalf of these companies. And it is an extremely complicated business. And so what does our product do? So 3 things. One is we offer a direct network for all of our customers, or we call them members. We offer a network, 130 countries, 80 currencies, 7 billion mobile wallet and bank account endpoints around the world. Just a fascinating feat even to say out loud, and this was a painstaking effort by our team to go out and make direct connections around the world. I know you mentioned APAC, but we really have a regional presence everywhere. So we've made this effort to connect to mobile wallets directly, bank account schemes directly, cash pickup locations, and now, just announced yesterday, 15 billion card endpoints. And we make those connections direct so that our customers can enable their senders or their merchants to send or collect payments from abroad seamlessly. So they develop the experiences for their customers. We operate the pipes. So our product is the network. Our product is also an API, one consumable API for our customers, and they can send money to any of those endpoints I just mentioned. The third element, and I think we'll get into this as an element of our partnership, but it's Treasury. One settlement to us, one settlement, and you have access to our entire network. We are absolving the complexity of needing to fund, have a commercial relationship, have an operational relationship with 130 countries around the world. It's one settlement to Thunes, and you have access to the entire network. So it's a powerful thing we built, and I think it's this wave of payments that's now meeting the stablecoin era, and I'm super excited to talk about what we're doing together.
Well, let's get into it a little bit.
Yeah.
We just announced our partnership on Thunes using USDC.
Woo.
Actually.
Woo. We did it. We made it.
We did it.
Oh my gosh.
That's a reflection of the hard work that we've been doing behind the scenes.
Yes.
And our CEO, Jeremy Allaire, talked about it this morning on CNBC. Why is this a big deal? Like, why is, you're already moving money for many customers, millions of dollars around the world, and now you're turning on USDC. Someone's like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Why is this a big deal? Like, what is different for you? But more importantly, why does this make a difference for your customers that are using USDC instead of fiat?
Definitely, and I think it comes back to this settlement relationship that we have with our customers. We call ourselves the smart superhighway that connects payments around the world and facilitates money movement around the world. But what we've really done very well is that last mile of delivery. Sending funds directly to a bank account, sending funds directly to a mobile wallet. We've created those last legs of a transaction, and we've done that extremely well at Thunes. What we haven't solved for yet is our customer settlement. So our customer today has to send us, a wire. They have to send us fiat currency in order to settle for those payments that we're doing on their behalf. So behind this real-time payment rail is actually underpinned by the banking system itself. And all of the complexities and the length of time and
the non-real-time part.
Yes, exactly. We all know the complexities there. And so what USDC is doing for us is as simple as your value proposition itself. 24/7, 365, and real-time funding. So the 24/7 element, we're subject to banking hours today. So customers need to send us a wire by Friday at whatever their bank closing time is. That's a complexity for them. They need to fund us for the whole weekend. Every single day, they need to ensure that they have the proper operations in place to send us quite a big deal of money in order to send payments through our network. And what we're offering now to our partners, our members, is the ability to settle us for these relationships with USDC. And I think that is the element that we connect together to really create this smart superhighway. You guys have that settlement layer, and then we can help facilitate the last mile. And so this partnership is very natural. It makes a lot of sense, not only for Thunes itself, but for our customers, to preserve working capital, to facilitate the speed of settlement, and to really absolve ourselves of a lot of the complexities.
Let's dive into that a little more, because you and I, for people who don't deal with payments every day, it's really hard to understand where the friction is and where the costs are. Because when we push a button, it seems like it just arrives on the other side.
Of course.
But
that's the good case.
That's the good case. No, that's the good case. And the thing is, like, if you're working the right way, your customer, for example, I don't know if they are, but like Nike, wants to send money to a bunch of different suppliers all across Southeast Asia. They send you money, they push a button, and then everything gets paid. Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, China, wherever. It seems like it works. But talk about this pre-funding part. For those of us who are in finance, we understand. But like for those who don't, who are in the tech side, like what is pre-funding and why does this suck?
Absolutely. So I think if you look at some of the customers we work with, right, like to the user, to their sender, you're pushing a button and the payment just goes through. That's the magic of what Thunes does, to be sure. And companies like us that help facilitate payments that look like local payments. It is truly incredible. But underpinning that for an organization is a need to settle for all of those payments. So I'm taking you now behind the curtain, right? Because in front we have the button, you send a payment, and it goes to your friend, to your mobile app, to your relative, et cetera, right? We know the remittance space, and we know that the Nike pays out to many of their suppliers, and it looks very simple. But behind the curtain is the need to actually move money from the business to their payments provider in order to settle for those payments. So behind that curtain is large scale, large value payments that need to be facilitated on a very regular basis to ensure that we are all funded for the transaction. And on the other side, we have local partners across the world where we've developed not only operational, commercial, technical, but settlement relationships. Of course, we are converting to local currencies in 130 countries around the world. I mentioned 80 currencies. That means Thunes has to go out and ensure that we convert for 80 currencies every day around the world. And so speeding up these settlement relationships becomes not just a cost that you can see on your phone, but actually a cost of capital equation for our customers. Our customers are super excited about the possibility to preserve their working capital for that one more day, for that one more second, and think about how fast and how much we're changing that dynamic when we fund with the USDC. When those settlements are abstracted and absolved of the banking system and the wiring to send us those funds, there's a massive value for our customers.
You know, the way I think about it, the way I understood it is, essentially these merchants that are doing the payments, they have to park some money with you.
Absolutely.
These are the pre-funding part. And this is money not working for them.
Absolutely.
This is money that sits in your bank account, eventually being sent out. But as soon as they hit the button to send it out, they then have to backstop that money. So they may park $1 million with you, and then when they hit the button, the $1 million goes out to different places. But at the same time, they have to move $1 million back into your account.
Absolutely.
So there's $1 million worth of fiat that's just sitting there. From their perspective, is their working capital.
Exactly.
When you can receive USDC, what does that mean?
When we can receive USDC, that means you can send us USDC, which means it's much faster, which means you can do that over the weekend. I mean, I've just absolved, so you talk about the million every single day. When you're sending funds for the weekend to settle us for all of these payments that are happening, that's 3 times the amount. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Million times 3, $3 million that you may have to park so that we can ensure our network is funded. Now, you can send us that funding all weekend. we also can have access to that network. The speed of funds, the availability of funds becomes something we've never known before. And this is the value that we're pitching to our customers because it's so imperative for them on that cost of capital equation on those funds that are just parked. And now we're able to absolve them of that by offering a speedy, reliable, available service to settle us.
Now, what about for you? You mentioned a little bit about the Treasury.
Yeah.
Right? The fact that now, previously you have to take money in New York, 4:30 in the afternoon, depending on the bank, and then it shows up on the other side in Hong Kong, and Friday in New York is already Saturday in Hong Kong.
Exactly.
What does using USDC mean within your Treasury operations?
I mean, for us, just as a Treasury operations, we are able to take advantage of the same speed of settlement and availability of funds. So we are now using USDC to work with our downstream partners, to work with our liquidity providers to say, can we send you that amount that we've been sending to you via wire every day, now in USDC? The funds become available instantaneously. And so if our partners are able to take these fundings from us and customers are able to send settlements to us, we've now absolved the entire ecosystem of the traditional value chain of payments. Which is fascinating. I mean, really, you're basically abstracting all of the layers that have existed today. All of the traditional banking rails that we have to send wires to, the hours that form around the banking system are now absolved such that funds can arrive instantaneously and at any time during the day. So for us, it's super valuable as well. As a Treasury operation, it simplifies what we do and really takes us into the next dimension of our offering.
So essentially, banking hours disappear. There's no
banking
such thing.
There are no hours in this space, I think, right?
Yeah.
That's what you guys told me.
24/7 settlement.
Yes,
and
okay,
you're
good.
doing these downstream. We're sitting here in Hong Kong, but for Thunes, this is where your money land. But you're paying out actually not just here in Hong Kong, but in Southeast Asia, in LATAM, in Africa. Can you walk me through some of these places where the downstreams are actually looking at like, hey, let's take USDC. Like, why did they do that?
I think it's because they have a use for it. And as I think this is really, for Thunes, we're relatively, I think we appreciate USDC and the reliability of it. But for us, we're looking at a network, just like we've developed on the fiat side. We're looking at a network that has network effects. So Circle has gone out and found the types of mainstream partners, reliable, compliant partners who are willing to accept USDC because they have a use case for it on the other side. And so we're finding these partnerships and we're finding those availability and liquidity of these providers to say, I will take your USDC because I have something to do with it afterward, whether it's issuing to individual users, facilitating flows on the other side, so sending funds outbound from a particular country. Whatever they're doing with that USDC, they are also taking advantage of the benefits that it has to offer. And that's really the definition of a network effect. And that's what Circle is doing so well. You're finding the right partners to build out this network, similar to what Thunes has done with all of the endpoints we created around the world.
Yes, and this is actually a good plug. We have a Circle Alliance network on our website for those of you who are looking for different partners to work with all around the world. Go to circle.com. There's a Circle Alliance website where you can find different partners that we work with that have access to USDC or can handle USDC on your behalf. So, we're here at Circle from Hong Kong. This is Hong Kong FinTech Week. Sitting here in Hong Kong, it's a global financial hub. You can walk down the street, here in Central, down to Wan Chai, everywhere in between, and you can take one fiat currency and swap it for another, and then be able to send it anywhere you want. But this is not the use case for Hong Kong. It's really around some of these markets that we talked about, the emerging markets in LATAM and Africa. Can you share a bit of how Thunes work on this, on supporting cross-border payments? And also, why does USDC make a difference for settlement in these emerging markets compared to either dollar fiat or local fiat for them?
So I think you nailed it very well by saying, look, Hong Kong is a global financial hub, for sure. I mean, the facilitation of trade here, the amount of diverse group of people that are in these markets, and it's flourishing with not only people, commerce, but also capital and hard currency capital. And I think in emerging markets, there's more of a difficulty around sourcing hard currency and sourcing that level of commerce that comes with hard currency being fluctuating into these markets. And what USDC does is absolves us a bit of that liquidity equation. Dollars can actually flow into and out of emerging markets much simpler. And what happens with that is ultimately inflation comes under control in these markets, and there's more of a facilitation of dollar-based trade. Of course, the dollar is still the reserve currency for global trade. And so giving that access to emerging markets, what I think of is that Circle's actually creating a global financial hub that doesn't have a specific locale. It doesn't have a country or jurisdiction. What you're doing is actually creating what the internet did, which is creating that global hub that can be translated really globally. And of course, you're finding a way to do that in partnership with legislators and regulators. We saw today in Hong Kong and many other countries around the world. And that partnership is enabling Circle to proliferate your network and create this global financial hub that has no distinct borders, which is super powerful what you're doing here. And I think companies like Thunes and Thunes ourselves have been doing that for a long period of time, creating these links into the financial ecosystems. But this is the last leg. This is the settlement layer that lies between them and enabling the facilitation of money movement into those markets to facilitate fast, efficient, available dollar settlement into emerging markets, which can ultimately uplift these economies and facilitate so much more commerce, global trade. I mean, the use cases for this are really endless.
Yeah. One stat that I think about is that you talked about dollar as the world's reserve currency.
Yeah.
50% of global trade are the invoices are in dollars.
There you go.
In LATAM and Latin America, it's around 90%, partly because of the proximity to the US.
Yeah.
And here in Asia, around 75% of trade invoices are denominated in the dollar. So more likely than not, when you show up in any of the trading houses, when you walk into any large enterprise, when they do any sort of cross-border payment, the denomination is USD.
Exactly.
And the challenge is that in developed markets like Hong Kong, it's easy to get US dollar. But in some of the emerging markets, it's actually quite difficult, especially as banks de-risk.
Exactly.
But they are still part of global trade.
Absolutely.
There are firms in Kenya, in Ghana, in Brazil, in Argentina, in Vietnam, in Thailand that are still trading with the world.
Yeah. And in many of these markets, I mean, you have to spend, if you're an enterprise and you're an importer in these markets trying to pay a supplier in dollars, you are often waiting. I mean, I'm not talking about days. You could be waiting for weeks to source those dollars in order to send them out.
That's right. And now you can send essentially a digital dollar straight into their mobile wallet.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. Maybe to kind of wrap this up, this is just the beginning of our partnership. It's a lot of hard work to even get us here.
You're smiling, yeah.
This is Thunes' first journey, really.
Yeah.
Onto the blockchain and into stablecoins. What advice do you have for other, whether Web3 companies or enterprises that are looking into getting into this space? Like, what do they need to think about? What are some of the learnings and advice you have for them?
Yeah, this is a great question. And it is Thunes' first foray into the world of stablecoin and to this kind of new wave space for us. And for me, my background is in banking, in traditional payments. Many of my colleagues, it's their background as well. So we're often reteaching ourselves what this ecosystem looks like and how it might work in relation to what we do today. Thunes is a regulated institution in many different countries, and we need to make sure we uphold the requirements of our regulators and of our auditors, et cetera. And here's the advice I'd have, is to learn from your partner, to spend the time understanding how this can work into your use case today. So I do a lot of that with the team, and I'm looking at my guys who I work with. I joke about this. I talk to the Circle team pretty much every single day of my life, and I've been doing that for 9 months. And I think the relationship we have is one of trying to learn from each other.
Yeah.
And it's really trying to understand these ecosystems we've been operating in and how to create that web between us. And what I appreciate so much about this partnership is that there is a give and take, and that we're starting to understand each other and speak the same language in terms of, alternate payments in my universe versus the Web3 and stablecoin universe, and trying to bring together what is a non-starter, what's something we can implement to learn more and to actually bolster our compliance process, bolster our transaction process, and vice versa. I think Circle is spending a lot of time trying to learn about the space that we operate in and appreciating the complexity of our side of the world as well. And so the advice I have is to spend time listening, understanding your partner, and making your ask, and always leading with the customer proposition. I spend a lot of time advocating internally for what we do with Circle. And the way I do that is by talking through what we've talked through today. Lead with the customer value, because it simplifies the equation. First of all, we don't have to get into all of the intricacies. We can simplify what's being done and make it really tangible for folks who are not from the industry like myself to understand. And the Circle team does that really well. I think our partnership is allowing us to do that really well. And like you said, it's just the start. We have a lot more to do together.
Yeah, thanks for the learning sessions we've had. And this is something that just as leaders, I'm constantly pushing my team to be thinking about what does our customer want.
Yeah.
If you start with that and you're solving a problem for the customer,
yeah,
it will get there.
Exactly.
All the little details and all the obstacles that seem insurmountable, but once you have that focus, once you understand the objective of what the customer's trying to get to, we will figure it out.
Exactly.
So thank you so much. Thank you, Kyle. Please thank me in applauding Kyle for his thoughtful notes and comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you.